NBA players have it all.
Look out below! Oh my lord!
But what happens when they lose everything? Allen Iverson was the first pick of the legendary 1996 NBA draft, so his first contract was a 3-year, $8.9 million deal, and he would prove he was worth every penny, being one of the electric young players in the NBA, and winning Rookie of the Year. He would go on to sign his rookie extension just a few years later, which was a 6-year, $70.8 million deal, and that would lead him to winning MVP in 2001, averaging 31 points per game. From there, he would sign a veteran extension for 4 years, which was worth $73.4 million in 2004, and be traded to the Denver Nuggets in 2006. And his final 2 contracts would be a minimum deal for $1 million and a 1-year, $3 million deal to close out his career. But when he was drafted, he also signed his first Reebok contract, which was a 10-year, $50 million deal. And when he won MVP in 2001, Reebok made him a deal that would make him the face of the brand forever. His new deal would have him earning $5 to $10 million per year, as long as he was playing in the league. And they also set aside $32 million for him in a trust fund that Iverson could take out on his 55th birthday. Now, all those big numbers add up to Iverson earning around $200 million in his career. So, how did Iverson lose it all? As good as he was at making money, he was even better at spending it. His lifestyle included buying luxury cars, jewelry, and clothing. His monthly spending would include $10,000 on clothes, restaurants, and groceries every single month. Plus, he would have to drop $125K every month for his mansion, and would constantly be at the club, dropping $40K a night. But that's just the beginning of Iverson's spending problem, because when Iverson landed at an airport and completely forgot where he parked, instead of searching for his car, he went to a dealership and just bought a brand new car. And another time, AI was talking to his former teammate Larry Hughes about his Bentley, when Hughes said, "Yo, AI, I have to give me one of those." And AI just said, "Bro, you can have mine." But it kept getting worse, because AI started getting in trouble with the police. Iverson got his Lamborghini Murcielago impounded because he failed to provide proof of ownership to the police. He then started yelling at the cop, "Take the vehicle, I have 10 more. I make more money than you will in 10 years. And do you know who I am?" Things got even worse when Iverson had to appear in court. He told the judge that he was spending $300,000 a month on clothes and jewelry, and he was even struggling with debt, owing $900,000 to a local jeweler. To pay his debt, he had to sell both of his homes in Denver and Atlanta. And as if it couldn't get any worse, AI was a gambling addict, and one time lost $1 million in one night. Even though he earned $200 million during his time in the NBA, in 2010, he filed for bankruptcy. He went from $200 million to zero. He had lost it all. However, AI was saved, all because of Reebok, who has supported him through all of his tough times. Like I said before, he signed a lifetime deal to be the face of the brand, and one part of his deal is that he will earn $800,000 a year for the rest of his life. And when he turns 55, he'll be able to access his $32 million trust fund. Now, Antoine Walker was also part of the legendary 1996 NBA draft, but he didn't have the same success or lifelong contract like Iverson. Walker came from humble beginnings, growing up in the dangerous streets of Chicago. He said he never understood the value of a dollar, which may have led to his downfall. Walker was the 6th pick of the draft and signed his rookie deal for $5.5 million over 3 years. He then got the same extension as AI, $70.8 million over 6 years. His final contract was a 4-year deal to put his total earnings to $108 million. Walker's first year on his rookie contract was worth $1.6 million, so he bought his mom a house for $500,000, bought himself a condo for $300,000, his car, his mom's car, and furniture for both homes. The only thing Walker forgot about is taxes. He didn't realize it at the time, but his $1.6 million was really only around $800,000. And he continued to spend money he thought he had by traveling to Hawaii and Las Vegas, buying expensive jewelry and exotic cars, and spending a lot of money on gambling. Walker was already in debt, before his rookie season was even over.
As any young, arrogant kid, I didn't want to listen to him. I kind of took things in my own manner and made sure that I did what I wanted to do with my money. So I was advised a little bit, but I definitely took things in my own manner, just through my own, being my own ego.
Walker not only lost a lot of his wealth in gambling, but he also said he invested a large amount of money into real estate. Except this was around 2007, right before the Great Recession, where he lost 90% of his investment, including a $4.1 million custom-made home. But it was only going to get a lot worse for Walker, because in 2007, he was robbed at gunpoint in his own house. Scared for his life, he watched the gunman steal $20K in cash, as well as 15 to 16 custom-made watches, cufflinks, and a diamond necklace. After the gunmen were finished, they forced Walker into his closet, duct taping his mouth, ankles, and arms. Then just a few years later, Walker started getting in trouble with the police. In 2009, he was arrested for driving under the influence, and later that same year, he was also arrested in Vegas because he owed $800,000 in gambling debts to 3 separate casinos. Not being able to pay off his debt, he was charged, and he originally pleaded not guilty, but a year later in 2010, he pleaded guilty on one condition, that he wouldn't go to jail. Walker then filed for bankruptcy since his debt was at a whopping $12.7 million, and he sold all of his real estate, which was only worth $4.3 million. He even had to sell the house that he bought for his mom during his rookie year, which he said was when he was at his lowest point. To help pay his debt, he even had to sell one of his most prized possessions. Back in 2006, he joined forces with Dwayne Wade and Shaq on the Miami Heat, and they went on to beat the Mavericks in the finals, giving Walker his first and only ring. But because of all of his debts, he had to sell his championship ring. He couldn't even pay the bankruptcy lawyer fees, so his Kentucky teammate Nazir Muhammad paid those for him. The worst part about Antoine Walker's struggles may not have ever been financially. It was the fact that when he was at his lowest point, everyone left him.
OGs, my teammate, my bro, everybody that when I was getting it, we partying, when I called, they went left. They disappeared. So the OGs, the teammates, and you saying that, oh, we supposed to come back, they really don't want to do it.
When he was on top, he helped out all of his friends and family, but when he hit rock bottom, no one came to help him out. No one even called or texted him to see if he was alright. Luckily for Walker, he was able to turn his life around, working as an analyst for ESPN and Fox Sports 1. But you can't say the same for former NBA player Delonte West. West was a guard from Washington, D.C., who got drafted at a St. Joseph's University after 3 years. He was picked 24th overall in the 2004 NBA draft by the Boston Celtics, and he played 10 seasons in the NBA, playing for the Celtics, Supersonics, Cavaliers, and Dallas Mavericks. West earned $16 million in his career, but how did he go from this to this? Delonte was a crafty guard who played with LeBronJames when he was on the Cavaliers. However, in the summer of 2010, after being eliminated from the playoffs, West would plead guilty to weapon and traffic charges from an arrest in 2009. He was sentenced to 8 months of electronic monitoring, 2 years of probation, and 40 hours of community service. He later explained why he was arrested on these charges 2 years later. West said he took his nightly dose of Seroquel, a drowsy medication to help treat his bipolar disorder. He had his friends at his house, and they found his secret stash of guns. And when his mom came into his room, she started yelling at him, saying she wanted all of them out of her house. He told his friends to leave and took all of his guns into his motorcycle to transport them to another house. But because of his Seroquel, he was dozing in and out of sleep while driving his motorcycle, and he completely missed his exit. After he almost hit a truck, he decided to pull over and flag down a police officer. He told the cop he was transporting weapons, but that didn't help West, ultimately putting him behind bars. And things kept going downhill, because in 2012, he would play his last game in the NBA for the Dallas Mavericks, and just a few years later, he would become one of the few former NBA players that would end up becoming homeless, despite having $16 million in career earnings. In 2016, a fan spotted West outside of a Jack in the Box, and they wanted to make sure it was really him. He responded with, "I'm not about that life anymore." And just 4 years later, in 2020, West was seen on the streets of Dallas begging for money. When asked about what he was doing, he said, "It is what it is. I have children." That same year, a viral video came out after West got into a fight on the streets and was put into handcuffs by police.
I'm the leader of the motherfucker. Goddamn Navy SEALs. And the home. And the Navy.
But just a few years later, things started looking up for West when Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban would run into him at a gas station and decided to pick him up.
So when I saw your picture of him right at the Quick Mart or whatever it was, and that was just right around the corner for me, I went looking for him and found him, put him in my car, got him a hotel room, got from him his mom's number, called his mom.
Cuban helped get him set up at a therapy center and a new job, hoping this would help jumpstart his life again. Even tweeting this picture of Delonte, saying he has a long way to go, but he's taken his first steps. Things were looking up for West, even getting a second chance at the sport he loved most, getting a Big 3 tryout.
This is the biggest lesson of my life. You know, all we have is this moment. All we have is this present moment, and this is my gift from God.
But in November of 2022, West was reportedly arrested yet again for public intoxication. And less than 2 weeks before that, West was seen begging at a stoplight about a mile away from the same place. Everything everyone in Delonte worked for, gone again. Now, one of the most popular players who lost everything was Dennis Rodman. He started out as one of the bad boy Pistons and solidified his status as a star and the best rebounder in the NBA with the Chicago Bulls, helping them win 3 NBA championships. He also played for the Spurs, Lakers, and Mavericks, where he would earn a total of $27 million over 12 seasons and try to wear the number 69. But if you look up Rodman's net worth today, it says he only has $500,000. That's because Rodman had a gambling problem, just like his teammate Michael Jordan. Instead of training and working on his game, Rodman was usually in Vegas, and he had his fair share of big nights and off nights. He won $89,000 in one night. However, he would end up losing about $200,000 just a week after that. That's because after his big win of $89K, instead of betting $500 like he was, he raised it to $5,000 per bet. But unfortunately for Rodman, gambling wasn't the only thing causing him to lose his millions. He was also the most fined player of all time, and his most infamous moment was kicking a cameraman after he fell on top of him. That kick cost him $200,000, and that's just the beginning of his history with fines. He was fined $20,000 when he joined the WWE and wrestled with Hulk Hogan against Karl Malone, just so this could happen.
Watch out from behind, it is Diamond Cutter on Rodzilla. How about that?
Rodman was fined another $20,000 for picking a fight with the ref and was fined $68,000 for skipping preseason camp in 1992. But the real reason behind Rodman losing all of his money was because he got scammed. Peggy Ann Fulford marketed herself as a financial advisor, posting degrees from Harvard and being successful on Wall Street. These achievements would make anyone want to trust her with their money, except it was all a lie. Her degrees were fake, and her Wall Street success was made up. Now, there was no way for Rodman to know that, so he trusted her with his finances and even mentioned her in his Hall of Fame speech in 2011.
Peggy King, Elton King, the family, that these guys are taking care of me these days. Thank you, Peggy.
When they met in 2000, they became close, and Peggy added to her list of A-tier celebrities to her financial advisory bankroll. Not long after that, Rodman would see all the red flags. He had to call his lawyer about why he had no power in one of his Florida condos that Peggy helped him buy, and he would also start to notice that he was behind on his life insurance policy. Whenever Rodman would complain, Peggy would push back, saying that his wild behaviors are why he shouldn't be trusted with his own money. She wouldn't even let him have a debit card. Shortly after his Hall of Fame speech, he found out he was missing 4 months of child support payments to his first wife, owing as much as $800,000. And when they were finally able to look at Rodman's spending habits that was causing him to lose all of his money, they found a charge that didn't belong to him. It was a huge payment to Victoria's Secret, and Rodman responded right away by saying, "I've never even been to Victoria's Secret." He finally fired Peggy in 2015 and accused her of fraud. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison in 2018. And when she pleaded guilty, Rodman was awarded just $1.2 million, which is nothing compared to what he was making when he was a player in the NBA, and wasn't even close to the amount she stole from him. After everything he went through, looking back, he said his only regret was not being a great father. Now, it's crazy how many NBA players lose everything. But what's even crazier is why NBA players have tattoos. Check it out right now.